Looks like I'm getting more people here on Instagram. So let me just go live. Let me see here. Okay. And I'm having camera issues with. Hey guys, some of you actually submitted the questions in regards to branding. So I will address them, but also I'm going to go over step by step with you in regards to what you should be doing starting today, regardless of where you are. I know we're gonna have people watching this, not even just now, but later, that are self-employed. Maybe you're just starting to build your brand. Maybe you're in sales. Maybe you're in direct sales. Maybe you have an e-commerce business, but you want to do it through a personal brand, or even through a business entity. Some of you are veterans. Some of you are in finance. I see Nisim here. He's an attorney. So it doesn't matter what business you're in. What I'm going to do is I chose this topic for a reason. And the reason why I picked this topic is because back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, I did a live workshop in Times Square in Manhattan. And after that, we got a lot of great feedback. And I've repeated that talk at two more speaking engagements, also in New York, that also received great feedback. So I figured, why not start with something that we already know people want and need to not just launch the business, not just launch their personal brand, but also to grow an existing business. My last two clients that I have right now, they're actual business with employees. We're doing exactly the same thing. We're doing with them what I'm going to go through with you today, taking exact same steps. And naturally, I just want to give you a heads up. Naturally, some people will look at this and they will look at all 7 steps, and they're going to be like, you know what, I can do 5. I'm not going to do the other 2. Or I'll do 4. I'm not going to do the other 3. I'll just do 6. I'm not going to do the other 1. It's like cooking something or baking something, right? If you're given the recipe and if you leave something out, you're not going to get that whole thing, that exact same thing. So it's important that you actually apply everything. And this is not my information. This is something that we've taken from, yes, my own experience, obviously, but also through studies of different organizations, even with stores and businesses that you personally shop with, that you go to the store, like for example Trader Joe's, Harley Davidson. Like I've looked at many different entities and organizations and personal brands. They always use these principles. So let me just take a look at my notes, and I'm gonna start going through it. Okay. So here's the thing. If you could write this down, that's great. If you're going to come back to this video, that's awesome. I am going to save this and upload it to YouTube most likely as well. Here's the thing. Let me just share something with you and get it off my chest, because over the last 3 days, I was very excited about doing the live and sharing the content with you. And in the last 2 days, I actually hesitated. Okay, I'm just being very honest with you, because of everything that's going on right now. And you can't be in denial. You can't, neglect what's happening right now. It's real. Yes, some of it is driven by propaganda. Some of it is real and it needs to be addressed. But at the end of the day, okay, so I'm going to share something with you. At the end of the day, no matter what happens out there, it will be over with eventually. What you got planted in here and here, this is something that requires your full and undivided attention and commitment, because that's not going anywhere until you say it's going somewhere. And with that in mind, that's why I decided to go through with this. And actually hold alive and go through the information, because there are a lot of people hurting, because of the business and branding and financial situation. I have some friends that are operating on 10 to 25% of annual revenue, what they used to do prior to March of 2020. It's a family business. Some businesses are 2, 3 employees, not that big, maybe 3, 4 years in business, and they're taking a big hit. So with that in mind, everything that's happening right now, it's not going away. I'm sorry, it's gonna go away someday. What you have here is not going away until you say it's gonna go away. So let me just go through this with you really quick. If you have questions, just shoot them here my way, and I'll address them. I will also address some of the questions that came in through the poll that I was holding last week when I let you guys know that I'm going to be doing a live. So I'm going to address those questions as well. So again, keep this in mind that this information applies for anyone, whether you're an individual building a personal brand, whether you are a small business, right? You just started, or if you've been in business for 5, 10, 15 years. Just because something worked 10 years ago, you know damn well that, probably is not going to work right now. So number one question is, you need to ask yourself before going into the marketplace, before engaging in digital marketing, is you need to ask yourself, why me? Why should people do business with me? What makes me different? All right. And if you know that, if you know the answer to that question, that means you need to speak that into the marketplace. Because what you need to do is you need to separate yourself from everybody else. And here's what everyone else is doing. They're putting together their marketing campaigns based on how they are better than their competition. What you should be doing is remove the language of I'm better and replace it with here's how I'm different. If you want to niche it down, I'm going to go through the niche as well later on, but whatever makes you unique about your business, that's what has to be in your story. So I'll give you a great example. You take 2 accounting specialists. Both have been in business, let's say, for 10 years. Let's say 15 years. So they've seen the last economic downturn as well. One has 15 employees, the other one has 5 employees. They both have more or less the same, true story I'm sharing with you, more or less the same amount of clients. But if you measure the rate of engagement and the phone calls that were initiated from their website or social media based on a unique, innovative campaign, you will see the number of engagements and the phone calls will be higher for that accounting specialist who actually shares the story of what makes them different. Everyone does taxes, everyone does your financial books and stuff like that. But see, at the end of the day, most of us do business with small businesses based on our relation to them. If it's a small ethnic type of driven business, guess what? That's your unique sales proposition. If it's a family driven business and you're proud, 65 years in business, 3rd generation, right? Keep it local, then that's your marketing. So what makes you different? Question number 1. That's what you got to ask yourself. Awesome. Hey guys, welcome. Okay. Positioning. What for? Right? What are you doing this for? This is something you got to ask yourself. Why are you doing what you're doing? So what are you there in the marketplace for? Is it just to make money? I'm guessing probably not if you're on this live. What's it for? What drives you? See, in business, when you go back to crafting your story and making it known, people want to know more about why you do what you do than how you do it, right? It's why, what, and then the last part is how. Yeah, if we're not talking about Amazon or eBay or any of these price-driven purchasing power, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about as an individual. So another great example, I started off in direct sales between 2004 to 2010. I was involved in direct sales, multi-level marketing. It was network marketing, however you want to call it. I call it direct sales. That's where I started. And the reason why I started in that industry, and I actually transitioned from being an engineer, a network engineer, the reason why I started there was simply because of the financial opportunity. I wanted to get away from the rat race. I didn't want to do the 9 to 5. It's a whole different story. If you know my story, great. If you don't, I'll share that with you later on. Uh, and what I did was I got involved in that industry, but all I did at that point was just trying to implement what was being told by my sponsor, by the guy who recruited me and that team. What I've learned is that it's more important when you go into the marketplace and trying to sell something, because imagine working with a company as an independent rep that has 100,000 reps in the field. The question is, how are you different? Everybody's trying to sell, everybody's trying to recruit, what makes you different? I've got a bunch of friends that either have served in the military, in the armed forces. A couple of them are still serving right now, and they will tell you great stories because they never forget it. Who recruited them? See, a recruiting process is a sales process. So what are you leaving them with? How are you leaving them? Are you making them feel better compared to prior of them contacting you or you contacting them? How did you find them and how did you leave them? What's your USP? Going back to it, right? So the positioning is what makes you different. So as an example, what I'm going to give you is between 2004 and 2010, I did everything traditionally, just like I was taught. And then in 2010, I actually came across a mentor that I've never met in person. It was all online, and she taught me the way of online marketing. And I started selling the hell out of my digital products and recruiting people. As a matter of fact, I know a couple of them actually. I used to work with them. I know they follow me. I don't know if they're going to be on this live or watch this video later, but I've recruited over 300 people in 2.5 years personally, just using Facebook. Instagram wasn't around back then. At least I don't think so. How did I do that? By separating myself from everything else that I've been taught before, right? So I learned how to properly brand myself, and instead of just pitching and selling, I was actually bringing value. I was offering tons of training, tons of material, whether it was my own, and even oftentimes it was somebody else's, that allowed me to rebrand it and offer it as my own. And then when they started going through the material, then I was able to sell them on whatever that I was selling. So what makes you different? What are you coming into the marketplace for? What's your brand position? The third one is really, really important, because this part will help you create your marketing campaigns or even organic content better. And that is, you need to decide who your client is. And I've had this particular conversation several times over the last probably couple of months since the whole COVID began, because as a business owner, I had to go through some changes in my mindset as far as what I'm going to be doing with everything that's happening, right? And adjust to the cliche phrase that's around right now, the new normal. I hate that phrase, but it is what it is. So how are we going to adjust? And I had to sit down and think about, who is my target audience now? How are we approaching them? Do I still sell my message and my content, my training and my services to the same broad audience that the way we were doing prior to March 2020? Like I've worked with, initially I started working with only service providers. Then I got a team. Now we have a team of about 8 people. 6 full-time, 2 part-time. Everybody's working out of the house. But as far as offering the services to our clients, we only work with service-related industries, meaning no retail, no restaurants, right? And now, because of everything that's happening, we need to actually narrow it down even more. Why? Because not just it's not us changing our business model, but it's also most of our clients that are changing their business models as well. They're changing the way they're going around and recruiting and getting clients, selling, getting their message across, utilization of different platforms. Whether it's email campaigns, Facebook marketing, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it, right? And then we have the component of actually training the staff. What will make them better at recruiting and hiring, especially right now when you have hundreds of different resumes that are applying for one position. When before you had 10, 15 different employers fighting for one great candidate, or at least they thought it was great, a great resume, but you get the point. Now it's going to be different. So now, as a business owner, you really need to get really, really good at recruiting and sifting. So that's your goal. I kind of digressed a little bit, but going back, who is your customer? Niche it down. So let me get some answers here. I know there's a few of you here now. What business are you guys in? Type it in here. What business are you guys in? What industry? Okay. What's up with the connection? There you go. Restaurant. Awesome. What type of restaurant? Logan. And what city are you in, Logan? See, with restaurants right now, I mean, I'm in New York, and none of the restaurants could seat people. They're open, right? Most of them are open, but it's all for takeouts. So they had to change their business model right now as well. How long is it going to go on for? We don't know. Even when they're going to say we're all open, how affected are they still going to be? You're in New York and you have a bar. Wow. Okay, so how is business now, Logan? I'm hearing very different stories when it comes to bars in New York City. Fundraising. That's interesting. So you're in a fundraising business. Okay. So who is your ideal client? Even when it comes to, let's say, Logan said he's in a restaurant business. Even when it comes to the food industry, certain restaurants cater to, like, you would think the average thinker would be very slow. Oh, man. That's unfortunate, yeah. But open. All right, hang in there. So the average thinker would be like, okay, it's a restaurant business. We have food. That means we could serve anybody. But what if you're a restaurant that actually has a niche? Maybe you're serving a type of food that's very trendy. Maybe you have different, vibes, music, the decor. Maybe you're targeting a certain, age demographic, maybe a younger crowd, or vice versa. Maybe you're, high-end restaurant, the fine dining. So that means your average customer is going to be about probably 40 to 55 years old, the average. So it depends who your target client is. When you know exactly who the target audience is, it makes it easier for you to craft your marketing, whether it's print marketing, offline marketing. If you guys still do that, certain industries it still works very, very well. And then other industries, for other industries it doesn't. So your digital marketing, right? But based on your knowledge of who your ideal client is, it's easier for you to craft your marketing campaign. Okay, so another one. This is a very important question, the following, and not too many people ask themselves that. And that is, what are my perceived competencies? Meaning, what does the marketplace know about me? How many of you asked that question? What am I known for? What's my reputation out there so far? Whether you're an individual or a business with a team, it doesn't matter, right? So what, not what you think you're good at, but what do you believe your perceived competencies are? That's a very tough question to answer, because you really need to be in tune with the audience and the marketplace for an X amount of time to learn that. But if you haven't learned that, that's why there's a word there, perceived. So what do you think they think of you? What reviews have you gotten? And by the way, this is not here, so let me just throw this out there. When it comes to reviews, it is the best, not one of the best way to learn what your perceived competencies are. It is the best way for you to learn about the flaws in your business. It is the best way for you to connect with a client that's going out of their way, above and beyond, to reach into social media or Google listing and actually leave you a review. And about reviews, number one, you have to go after reviews like there's no tomorrow. Okay? You have to. Don't rely on anything else. You have to go after reviews. Number one. Number two, you have to embrace all reviews, not just positive ones. You have to embrace the negative ones, because the negative reviews is the feedback. Yes, there's a lot of bullshit reviews as well. Competition could leave you bad reviews. We have that. Everybody's got that. And it's an interesting, like, every once in a while I have these conversations with my clients that have traditional businesses. And when it comes to New York, being a traditional business, brick and mortar, you have staff, overhead, crazy. It's not easy to operate a business in New York. And I always encourage them, like, listen, you're in a service industry. You need to have a Yelp account. Personally, I can't stand Yelp. As a business owner, as a traditional business owner, I have had my fair share with Yelp, and they suck. I cannot stand them. Their turnover rate with their salespeople is horrendous. You look at Yelp, and they don't disclose this. But when you know, you know. The attrition rate, the turnover rate of their employees is insane. Okay? Nobody sticks around. And I'll tell you why. Because of the morale in the company. Not because of the pay. Because of the morale. And the way they do business is, it's a bunch of hypocrisy. It's lying to their clients. They're not being truthful, meaning it's not transparent. If I'm a business and if I do not advertise with Yelp, meanwhile my clients are going on Yelp and leaving me reviews, right? More than often, if that reviewer has maybe 2 or less reviews of other businesses, they will flag it and they will not display that review unless you're a paying customer of Yelp. Is that fair? No, it's not. Okay? But one of the negative beauties of capitalism, right? I can't stand the company. Anyway, so I tell my clients, I'm like, you need to be on Yelp. They're like, why? I'm like, here's why. You can't control Yelp. Those are not your rules. But if you understand the rules they play by, and you know your clients are going to end up there anyway, you need to play by those rules. But the way to win them, to beat them at their own game, is to take control of the narrative. Here's what I mean by that. Studies show that when you ask your clients for review, for feedback, especially if you have a physical business, right? Like a brick and mortar business or a studio, whatever, you get to see the clients face to face. Like a restaurant would be a great example with Logan. Max is on here, Izzy's on here, Shannon, I don't know if you're still in a brick and mortar business, but okay. So when you have these types of businesses, studies show that when you ask a client to leave a feedback right then and there from your place of business, chances of them leaving a review that's a positive, meaning like a 5-star rather than a 3 or 4-star. We're not talking about like if it's a 1-star, then that means they're adamant about a negative feedback. That means you screwed up somewhere or something they didn't like. But let's say they loved everything except for that one little thing. You always get those clients and they want to leave you 3 or 4 stars. Studies show that when you ask them right then and there, the chances of them leaving a 5-star review rather than a 3 or 4-star review is 85 to 90% higher. This is not me saying it. This is studies. You can Google this. Why? Because of human behavior. It's human psychology. So you have to go after those reviews. Those are kind of like I went off tangent here, but that was a bonus. You need to go after your reviews because that's the best way for you to learn more about your business, and also a great way for you to understand what your perceived competencies are, what the marketplace already thinks of you. All right. So if you're not getting reviews, I don't care if you're working for yourself, by yourself, or you have a team that you're working with, you need to be getting reviews. Okay. Let me see what's going on here with Facebook. Didn't activate. Interesting. We'll need to look into that, but I'm glad we're doing live here, so I'm gonna have to share this video on there. Okay. Next one. Can I measure my results? That's another question you got to be asking yourself, right? That is point number 5. How can I measure results? Well, reviews is one of them. How else? Finances. I think we had a financial expert on here before. I've seen him. Oh boy. All right. We'll see. Anyway, all right, so we just had a banker join us. I know she works in a bank, but money doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. Reviews, you could go back and forth. Again, you could have competition leaving bad reviews, stuff like that. It's work. But at the end of the day, you have to look at your profit and loss. There he is. Here he is there. All right. So you need to be looking at your P&L statements. You need to understand the numbers. I'm not an expert in numbers. See, when I started doing consulting, I understood one thing. I cannot consult on finances and more than half of operational stuff. There are only 2 things that I can consult on: marketing and recruiting, culture development, how to build a culture, how to build a team. Right? And that only came from experience. It's not something I've learned in the books by reading, 30 books and becoming an expert on it. That wasn't me. I had to be involved in direct sales for, a number of years and doing direct sales all online, and then working 2 traditional businesses and having over 200 employees between myself and my partners. So that all came from experience. And when it came to marketing, I understood that, hey, we try to hire this marketing company, that marketing company, this marketing company, and based on what they were doing wrong, I knew enough not to do that anymore, right? Then we kind of started doing it ourselves. But I knew one thing: finances, when it comes to running a business, is not my expertise. I know enough to hold other people accountable, but I don't know enough to actually do the details myself. So how can you measure your results? Look at the numbers. That's all it is. And the same principle applies for marketing. When you're building your brand and you're pushing your content out there, whether it's digital marketing, print ads, whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be able to track it. The worst thing you can do is throw hundreds of or thousands of dollars at marketing or a marketing campaign, especially when it comes to campaign, and not track results. So for example, when you do campaigns on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, they give you analytics. You can actually track how many people clicked, how many people engaged, how many people liked, how many people shared, but also how many people clicked the call button if you have a phone number for your business. Yeah, there's a button on your business page that you can actually track how many times it got clicked on when you were running your campaigns. Even if you don't run your campaigns, when you do it, or when you're just participating with social media organically on daily and weekly basis, you can pull a report, whatever. You could do it once a week, you could do it once a month, whatever your case is, but you could see and track it. So you need to know how to track your progress, how to track your results. Also, here's another one, and this question will, like, this is for somebody that's ready to scale their business. When you go from 5 employees to 10, or when you go from just being yourself to having somebody else. Maybe you start off with somebody else who's a subcontractor doing 10 to 15, 20 hours a week. You cannot afford them yet to be full time, right? Maybe you will go from 2 part-time employees to 1 full-time employee. Whatever the case is, whenever you're ready to scale, you need to understand what makes your business scalable. How many of you can honestly answer that question? What makes your business scalable? Can anybody right now tell me if you know what it takes for you to be scalable? I'll wait for you guys. Let me just... Coaching. Okay? What does that mean, coaching? You tell me if you can coach people, you can scale? With every customer, the experience has to get better. One to many. Okay, so one to many meaning you can coach instead of just one client, you can coach many clients. Okay, that's a great way to know that you can scale your business. What's the next step after that? Because me personally, I mean, you could do this in your business, but me, yeah, at once, I get it. But me personally, I don't want to be tied to my business all the time. Meaning, if I am the only source of revenue in my business, eventually that creates a bottleneck. Okay? So you need to understand that part, and you need to know, you need to have some type of a service or product in your business that can actually generate you income without you being attached to the transaction. Record the coaching so you could record it and automate it. Awesome. There you go. Okay, so this is how you go from being an individual entrepreneur, solopreneur, to an actual business that has automation. Okay, and obviously you can choose later on how you want to scale it by having a team in place as well, if that's your goal. If it's not, that's cool, but that's my business. I like working with a team instead of working on my own. So, you know, to each their own. There's no right or wrong here, but as long as you understand what it takes for you to scale your business, recurring services, there you go. That's residual income right there. Okay, recurring services bring residual income. This is like I don't want to say it's passive income, like, you know, do it once and don't ever touch it again. This is what direct sales has sold me for years, and guess what? It is not true. I will argue that statement with anyone. Okay, there's no such thing as don't do anything ever again. You need to be involved. There's no such thing as 100% return on 0% on 0% effort. No such thing. If it requires your time, you have to up the price. Okay, absolutely. That's logical. Okay. And the last one, this question I've learned from someone else back in 2015. Okay? And when I read this question, and I learned this at a workshop, we applied in our business, but I've also related this question, the following question, to what I heard Brian Tracy. If you're familiar with Brian Tracy, if you're one of the old schoolers, old timers like myself, then you know of Brian Tracy. He always said that begin with the end in mind. Actually, maybe, I don't know if it was him or Stephen Covey. I think it was Stephen Covey. Yeah, it was Stephen Covey for sure. If you read the book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So one of the 7 habits is whatever it is that you're beginning, whatever it is that you're starting, begin with the end in mind. So this question is, what is my identity footprint? What am I trying to do with my business? Can it completely run without me? Will I have a system in place? And it's important to know that before you even start. Now, I understand, many of you here are already in a business, and that's cool. So that means you need to think about this question. Hang on one second, I'm actually going to show you a book. I talked about this book a lot before. I actually have a video on my Instagram posted about the 3 books that had a aha moment, that I had an aha moment from, and this is one of them. Out of all the books and audio programs and everything that I've ever consumed, this is one of the 3 books that created a huge paradigm shift for myself, and it's called Built to Sell. It's a great book if you haven't read it. And this book, it's actually a story. The book is a story about a business owner that was struggling. They were making money. Financially, he was doing okay. But he was so consumed with the business, he didn't have a life. He was the business because it wasn't systemized. And through this story, a lot of people recommend this book, like Patrick, but David, so many other people recommended it. I picked it up, and it was probably, as far as business decisions, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made as far as picking up this book. And the book shares a story of how he was able to systemize his business in order to be able to sell it. Not to sell it, but be able to sell. That's why it's called Built to Sell. So you want to have a business that will leave some sort of a footprint if that's your goal. I work with a lot of people that do not have that goal. They don't share it, that goal. And what they want to do is they just want to travel the world, make money, be a freelancer, coach and call here, coach and call there. Some of them are copywriters. They write content. They send a couple of emails a day, and that's it. They're traveling. They're on average, they're making anywhere between 3 and average. Okay, yes, you have people that make $50,000 a month, but average is between $3,000 and $10,000 a month to be a solopreneur, and it's a lifestyle business. And if it works for them, hallelujah, mazel tov, whatever the case, and that's cool. But if that's not you and you're actually looking to build an actual business, that means you need to understand what your end game is, if there is an end game. You need to know how you're planning to exit, whether it's financially or just removing yourself as the body that runs the business and let the machine run. But you need a system for that. Okay, so what is my identity footprint? So I'm done with the 7 steps. Let me address the questions that I've had sent over to me via Instagram. If you have any questions on branding or sales, just comment right here. Okay, let me just find this. All right, got it. So the first question was, if you're an established business and you've been doing pretty well for the last, let's say, 10 years, right? Yeah, 6 years, but let's say 10 years, 6 years, 5 years, 15 years, doesn't matter. But you have no digital footprint whatsoever. How do you start now? Can you apply the same principles that you applied to become successful, quote unquote successful? I don't know what they mean by successful, but if they're in business for 10, 15 years, I would consider profitable. When you break even, that doesn't make you successful. That's not a business. That's a nightmare. So what can you do in a digital space that worked in the offline space? I would first look at what got you most attention. If what got you most attention is advertising, then you need to do the same thing in digital space. If what got you most attention was your service, meaning the word of mouth took off because your service is phenomenal or your product is amazing, that means you need to start collecting reviews like crazy. I mean, you got to collect reviews regardless, but I'm talking about focusing on that, right? I personally know I have a client right now. Not gonna mention the name of the client. We just signed them a couple of weeks ago, and they've been in business for about 13, 14 years, close to 15 years. So we're formulating their story for them to have it on their site and all the digital platforms. What they don't have is the reputation. 14 years in business, no online reputation whatsoever. They've been wanting to do something, they've been thinking about it, they've been speaking to multiple companies and individuals. I've been going back and forth with them for about a year and a half, maybe a little more, and they finally pulled the trigger, right? And guess what? Only 3 reviews on Google. That's it. End of last year, I worked with another company, close to 80 employees, 5 locations here in New York. When I started working with them, they only had 17 reviews. 31 years in business. Okay? So to answer that question is you need to look at how much, okay, I read that question, I said, how much money do I need to start a business? What type of business? You got to tell me what type of business. I have no idea. I don't know what your industry is. You could start a business from home for like $300-400, depending what you're doing, or you need $100,000 to start some sort of a franchise. So what type of a business? But I'll address that. So you need to look at what has worked before and do exactly the same thing on digital. The only difference between digital, well, there are many differences, but I'm talking about the big difference that people need to get over, that's like they're stuck in their head, is between digital and offline, because I've done both. I went into business for myself after I left my corporate job back in 2004 in direct sales, and I've done a lot of offline marketing, so to speak, all face-to-face, belly-to-belly, handshake-to-handshake, kitchen table presentation, flyers, ads in papers, ads in magazines. I would go to Barnes and Noble and hustle there, get all the old school type of stuff. Yes. And in my first traditional business where we had employees as a real estate broker, all offline. Right? I was not online. Like back then, there was no Facebook. I think we had MySpace, but I didn't even know how to use it properly. So the biggest difference, he said mindset, right? So you need the right mindset. But the biggest difference between digital and offline is that you have more eyeballs. That's it. Yes, it's mostly free unless you're advertising, right? Because with offline, you have to spend money on regardless on what. Now, with digital, once you have your platforms, it's all organic. Eventually, I highly recommend you actually spending some money, throw a couple of dollars on ads to get the traction, to get the engagement going, to get the share, just to build up the momentum. But as far as producing content and getting the attention of more eyeballs, it's free. Second biggest difference is that it has a residual component. So when you market and advertise offline, like when let's say you spend $3,000 on a radio ad, and that radio ad is done, whatever time slots you bought, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, doesn't matter, whatever you bought. Once it's done, it's done. On digital, every time I post a piece of content online, I'm not even chasing the likes or comments that I'm getting. I'm building up my residual portfolio, because let's say if I created 500 or even 50 pieces of digital content for free and it's sitting on my social media and I got 0 clients from that, and you know what? I'm like, let me just do a quick ad, and I spent $30 on an ad. Guess what people do these days, right? We're not in 2003, we're not in 1995. People right now, when they see an ad, what do? We look it up. We want to see reviews. We want to look at the website. We want to look at their social media page where that ad came from. And when I click on that page and I see a whole bunch of content, that's validation to me of your existence. Why? Because you created pieces of content way back when that have residual component to it that 3, 4, 5 months later, all of a sudden, are generating you a new client that just saw your ad and decided to look at your page. Okay? It's a huge difference. It's a lot cheaper and it's a lot faster to get in front of somebody on a digital platform. Okay, the next question I have. Okay, so let me address that question. How much money do you need to open up a cafe? Where? In New York City? Look at what the overhead is. You're looking at about, I mean, commercial rent right now is going to drop big time. Healthy food restaurant, for example. Okay, so if we're looking at if it's like a juice bar, something very healthy, right now, I would not personally recommend starting that type of business until this whole thing right now settles down, because we are, make no mistake about it, we are gonna enter the new economy. So with that said, you need to understand that commercial rent is most likely going to drop. That's number one. Number two, what's a transactional business going to look like? Restaurants, cafes, juice bars, and things like that. How is it going to look like? You know, like I got my buddy Sean right now that just joined. This guy is an expert. He worked for a very reputable company, and him and his partner, they have a personal touch business. They have their own, eye line, and they do different stuff. I'm not even going to butcher their industry. Microblading, lashes, all that good stuff. And that industry is also changing, right? It's not going away. People still want to look good. People still want to drink healthy stuff. They want to eat out to restaurants. But the way we consume things is going to be different. So based on that, just to answer your question, Alessia, based on that, you need to understand where the marketplace will be ahead of time, because that will determine your marketing budget as well. One of the biggest mistakes business owners make is that they think they have a great idea and a great product. Like the food could be phenomenal, the services could be amazing. So they spend a whole lot of money on the facade, on the walls, on the decor, on the tools, right? But they got zero money left on advertising. If you don't know how to do marketing yourself, you'll need to hire somebody. That costs money. If you're gonna do it yourself, your time is money. So you need to make sure that your time is properly allocated, or you're gonna have a team in place. So like right now during these crazy times, just like look at as far as that particular industry, and just look at where we will be by end of the year. All right. But on average, you're looking between the overhead and some payroll, and between the machines and the tools, you're looking at about $50,000 to $100,000, okay, including your marketing budget and things like that. Just to answer that question, okay. Another question. Let's see here. Okay, that's a good one. What's the best way for me to get more traffic rather than losing traffic to my competition? Meaning, like if I'm on Google, how do I make sure people are calling me, not my competition? Well, you can't rule that out. Your competition is there for a reason. Your competition is actually there to keep you on your toes and to make you better. But your goal is not to look at competition and see what they're doing so you could do the same thing. Your goal is to be different. Remember, I told you all the way in the beginning of this video. How are you different? Not how you're better, but how are you different? What are you doing that makes you different? What have you done that has made you different? What is your story? What are you coming to the marketplace with? How many testimonials do you have? How many reviews do you have? Right? I mean, at the end of the day, in my opinion, right now, if I'm looking up a business, whether it's, I'm ordering pizza to go, or I'm going to see a dentist, or whatever industry you like mentioned, accounting services, attorney. At the end of the day, today, the number one deciding factor for the consumer, I'm going to let you guys answer this, okay? What's the number one deciding factor when I'm looking it up and comparing? What's the number one factor? Somebody make a comment, please, with the answer. You're welcome. What's the number one factor to make a purchasing decision today? All right, guys. Okay. So the number one factor is the reviews. The reviews. It's social proof. People want to know Who else is saying good things about you? Stars, yeah, the amount of reviews, that's right. Rating, they want to see your feedback. So that is, I mean, there's so many ways that I can answer that question. What makes, how can you get more traffic over your competition? Like, there are a lot of ways. Your content, your customer service, like everything, your SEO. If we're talking about digital, right? What are you doing? But the reviews, especially on Google, will drive the consumer behavior more than anything out there. Reviews. That's it. Plain and simple. Number one way. There are many other ways, but number one way are the reviews. Okay, the third question was, I'm not a developer or programmer, but from a marketing standpoint, from a human behavior standpoint, I'll answer this question. How do I make my website more appealing? Number one, less is more. Don't try to bombard a reader with more information. The more information you have on there for a first-time viewer, and if it's not staged, programmatically, right? You're gonna lose that traffic. So you need to be very direct. So like, what's the first thing that grabs my attention when I'm on your website? Is there an image? Are you a daycare center? And if you're a daycare center, but you have a lifestyle banner as a sliding banner on a website, that's the first thing I see. That will not get my attention because you're a daycare center. What do you need to have as an image if you're a daycare center? You need to have, kids. You need to have a diversity of kids, right? Something that will pop, colors, eye contact. Like if these kids are looking at the viewer, that's what you want. If you are a hair salon or beauty type of an industry business, the first thing you want to have is an image that connects with the viewer, not a side shot of a female or a male, depending on what industry you're serving. But I'm talking about an eye contact. Then obviously you want to have this next section. This is the biggest mistake I also see, again, from a marketing standpoint, from a consumer behavior, is that the next section, they go into about us. Here's who we are. Here's what we do, right? Instead, have that section made for the viewer. Meaning, instead of saying this is who we are, this is why we do what we do, saying this is who we serve, right? Or if you're in medical field, where majority of my clients are, like, where's your pain? Why? Because you want to connect psychologically with the visitor of your website, because they're there for a reason. So now you're asking me, what is my pain? And let's say if you're a geriatric doctor, you're connecting with the pain that I have. And let's say I'm 55 years old, I'm browsing your website, I'm not that technically savvy. I want to have something simple and something that will pop, that will connect with me. So instead of making it about you, making it about the viewer first, and the last section, have it about us, or have a separate button that will lead them to about us. Also, another thing, you want to have a conversion tool. Give something away to collect their information, request an appointment, download a free PDF, how-to stuff. Like, we got a tattoo artist here, Max. Give something away. For example, if you are an artist and you create art on people's skin, right? That's art. And you want to collect their information. Now you have a visitor. What can you give them in order to collect their information? Is it something about education? I could only assume. I'm not into tattoos. I don't not like them. I actually find them pretty interesting and pretty cool. But I just don't have any any tattoos on myself. But I do know that there are different types of ink that artists use. So to the average consumer, if I don't know that, you may want to educate me about different types of ink, different types of tattoos, different types of color sets, right? Or different types of the types of tattoo, meaning, like, is there a cause, or is it just for fun, whatever the case. And you could give a piece of that information away in exchange for their contact. It could be a downloadable thing, or it could be a 2-3 minute video educating your viewer about those tattoos. Just an example. Okay, but have a conversion tool either way. If you're a restaurant, have a conversion tool, like, for example, submit your email and receive 10-15% off your order. So you could do that as well. But again, conversion tool is important. All right, and I'm going to handle one more question from here, and if you have any more questions here, I'll address them as well. Okay, with 3 questions, this is 4th. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. I actually addressed this question on a separate video. I don't know if I shared this before, but I know I believe it's on my website, uidigitalmarketing.com. I have a full 10-minute video that will go into this question, and I go through the pros and cons and how, what's the best way to get it done. But here's the question. When it comes to marketing, what's more cost effective? To have an in-house marketing individual, marketing personnel, or should we outsource it? That question is very subjective because you need to look at the size of your business. You need to look at your budget. I personally like to have everything in-house. Why? Because it gives me more control, and because of my understanding of marketing, I can hold my team accountable better. There are a lot of, I'll call it what it is. There are a lot of clueless business owners that don't know what's going on, and they have money to spend on marketing, and they'll bring somebody in, whether it's full time or outsourced, doesn't matter. But because they're clueless, like they want help, they want results, they want to build their brand, they want to build an audience, but they're clueless because they don't know the ins and outs. They don't understand consumer behavior. They're a specialist in whatever they do: a dentist, doctor, accountant, lawyer, plumber, electrician, a beauty specialist, tattoo artist, whatever the case. But they don't know marketing. So they would bring somebody in and they would just lose their money. Guess what? 4 years ago, that was me, right? Hired a marketing company, lost a ton of money. Yeah, this was 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. And I had to learn the hard way simply because I didn't know how to hold them accountable because I did not understand. So it's showing me that we have 2 minutes left, so I'll just wrap this up. So what's the best way? There is no best way. You need to look and compare as far as what you got now and what you could afford and where you're going. If you want to, the best way I'll address that question is just go to the site uidigitalmarketing.com, go to training, and the 3rd video is that video. It's a 10-minute video, and I actually go through the steps. Are there any questions here so I could address? We have 1.5 minutes left. Instagram gives me an hour to do a live. Okay, so no questions. Guys, thanks so much for plugging in. Next Monday, same place, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all. And if you guys are watching the replay, if you have any questions or comments, you know where to find me. Shoot me a DM, and I'll definitely get it addressed. So don't forget, if you're still interested in getting the answer to that question, to be more precise, uidigitalmarketing.com. Go to the tab section called training and just watch. It's a full 10-minute video, and I go through the steps there. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a good night. Be safe and be prosperous. Take care.